Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar is called Vendor Engagement, Help Your Radiology Clients Make the Most of Registry Reporting. And it's going to be presented by Lou Meyer, who's a data analyst for NRDR, King Lo, IT manager, and Uku Kasabas, product manager. What we're going to cover today is we're going to have an overview of the flat file upload process and the partner certification process for GRID, NMD, LCSR, and MIPS. We're going to talk about the web services process and becoming a certified partner for GRID, LCSR, and MIPS. And then we're going to talk about automated TRIAD submission for DIR and the IR registry. And just a housekeeping item, if anybody has any questions, you can enter those into the question box, and we'll try to reply to those as we go. And if we have any left over at the end, we'll read those out loud. You can also raise your hand with the little hand raise icon, and that'll let us know that you have a question. And if we have time, we'll unmute you so that you can ask your question at the end of the presentation. So these are all of our registries that support QCDR. We've got the NMD, the IR registry, the CTC, LCSR, GRID, and the DOS index registry. So all of these registries are able to support you in submitting measures to MIPS. You see here we've got a list of all of our registries and the number of measures that are available if you're using us for QCDR. We've got 2 for the CTC, 5 NMD measures, 3 DIR measures, 6 GRID measures, 3 LCSR measures, and 5 IR measures, along with roughly 50 MIPS measures. So again, you can submit a combination of MIPS and registry measures if you're using us as a QCDR. Here's just an overview of the data submission mechanisms. The CTC, GRID, and LCSR are manual data submission. DIR and the Interventional Radiology Registry are automated. NMD, LCSR, GRID, MIPS, and IR can use web-based flat file data upload. And then web services are available for GRID, LCSR, and MIPS. And here's just another overview of the data submission methods, along with a link at the bottom. So if you need to refer to this later, we will send out our slides. So this is available if you need more information about that. Here's a list of our certified vendor software partners. We hope everybody's on here, so apologies if you didn't show up on here, but these are everybody who have been certified for our different registries. We're also going to do a quick poll for the vendors in attendance. Have you assisted your radiology clients in submitting data to NRDR? I'm going to launch that now and give you a few seconds to respond. Okay, it looks like we got responses from most of you here. It's a pretty even split. It looks like 32% of you said yes, you have assisted radiology clients in the past. 39% said no, and 29% of you said you're planning on it. So now we move on to Lou Meyer.
Thanks, Zach. I'd like to start by showing you this summary of the data submission methods by registry. You can see that some of them accept manual data entry, which means the user goes onto the website and enters information on each exam one by one. And some of them offer the flat file upload method, which involves generating a text file and uploading that onto the registry website. And then the third method is an automatic data submission that doesn't involve any user intervention after the initial setup. So some of these are marked as certification available. That means that for that particular registry and data submission method, we have a testing procedure in place. And so if you go through that process, we put your logo on the website to indicate that you've done that. But we encourage you to offer the functionality for each of these registries to your clients, whether there's certification available or not. So I'm going to cover the flat file upload process, which is the same for all the registries that offer it. There are 4 steps. In the first one, the user uses your software to generate a flat file according to the specifications posted on the website for each registry. In the second step, the user logs on to the registry website and clicks a button to upload the text file. And then he or she will check the error log to see if there are any rejected records. And if necessary, corrects the errors and uploads again. So the user repeats that process until all the records are accepted. To go into a little more detail on each of these steps. In the first one, the software generates the flat file. They all follow this format of using a vertical bar to delimit the data elements in each of the records. So of course, the data elements themselves are going to vary from registry to registry, but this is the format they'll each follow. So in the case where a data element is missing, that's represented by 2 vertical bars, one immediately following the other. So you can see in this example, the middle data element there has a date, January 23rd, 2008, and we would expect another date to follow that according to the file specification, but in this case, one is not available or not provided or not applicable, so the file just shows another delimiter immediately after the one ending the first date field. And each record ends with a carriage return character and a line field character. In the second step, the user logs on to the registry website, and he or she will see this page. It's simply a matter of clicking the Choose File button and finding the file on the user's computer, and then clicking the Upload button on the right. Now, during that process, the facility ID is appended to the name of the file, and an error log is generated if any records are rejected. Here's what the error log looks like. The user will find the file name that was just loaded and click on the Show Log file that you see at the right, that link there, indicated with the red arrow. And here's an example of an error. The biopsy date is a date in 2019. This happens to be for the National Mammography Database, which does not accept future dates for biopsy dates. So that's flagged as an error, a little explanatory message, and then the user would go in and correct that date and upload it again. Now, it could be that the user entered a valid date, but it happened to be wrong. For example, if the biopsy was done in 2016, but the user entered 2017, then the record would be accepted, but if the user realized after the fact that that date was wrong, the user could correct it by generating the file again and uploading it again. And then all the values that were entered correctly the first time would just be overwritten, and the original incorrect date would be overwritten by the correct date. Now I'd like to discuss the process for NMD certification. This is the only certification we have for the flat file process. NMD has 2 versions. Version 2.0 corresponds to BI-RADS 4th edition, which came out in 2004. And version 3.0 corresponds to the current BI-RADS edition. So there are a few major changes. One is that the 3.0 version includes ultrasound and MRI. It collects assessments from more than one physician, if applicable, so that helps in auditing double reads. And it allows reporting at the patient level or the breast level. There's no charge for certification. Only BI-RADS software vendors are eligible, and vendors who certified for 2.0 must recertify for 3.0. There are three parts to the certification process for NMD. The first part consists of test cases which demonstrate your software's ability to populate all of the data elements with all possible values. So there's about 100 test cases to this part. And the second part consists of clinical scenarios that are taken out of BI-RADS, and you need to demonstrate your software can report those accurately. The third part consists of conducting an audit on random NMD records. So I'll go through these steps in a little more detail. Part one is where we provide you with about 100 test cases, and you need to supply us with a test file that has a record demonstrating each of those test cases. So in this example, in the second part would be the cross-reference table, and that's how you show us which record corresponds to which test case. So in this example, we have the first 4 test cases. We send you a spreadsheet for you to fill out, and you would return it as shown in the second example there. You see the 5 columns to the right are filled out with information that uniquely identifies a record in the test file. Part 2 consists of clinical scenarios that are taken from BI-RADS. So there are 3 deliverables here. The first one is 2 test files, one at the patient level and one at the breast level. Again, we want the cross-reference table, which is similar to the example I just showed you. And then third, we need an audit for each test file by facility, modality, physician, and screening versus diagnostic. So by audit, we mean we need an assessment count broken out by true positives, false positives, true negatives, and false negatives, as you can see in this example. Here's an example of a scenario taken from BI-RADS. So you see it's a text description rather than just a single line as in the part 1. But we provide you the reference from BI-RADS so that you can read the complete example in BI-RADS and see what we're expecting as far as the truth value. So this example is taken from the follow-up and outcome monitoring section, A4, page 41 from BI-RADS. And once you complete part 2, then you have conditional certification. So what that means is that we will post your logo on the NMD website, but we expect you to, at some point, finish part 3 to get complete certification. The part 3 consists of our supplying you with a file of random NMD 3.0 records, about 200, and you need to provide us with an audit on those records. So this implies that you have to have the ability to read NMD 3.0 records. Now, your software that you supply to your clients does not have to have that ability, but in order to perform this part of the certification process, you'd have to have some way of reading an NMD 3.0 record so that you can provide us with the audit on this part. So if the audit that you provide us is not correct, we'll indicate, of course, what the errors are, and then generate another random file and repeat the process until we have a successful audit. So next, I'll talk about the MIPS data file upload. The data from MIPS measures should be submitted via the MIPS portal as a web-based data upload using these documents. You see them listed there, how you can create an Excel file or a text file to be uploaded on the MIPS portal. Web Services API is also available at the the link given there. I'll hand it over to King.
Hello. In the next 15 minutes or so, I'm going to go over some basic web services that we provided for GRID, for LCSR, IR, and MIPS data submission. Basically, we're going to discuss a little bit on the architecture, then we talk about the onboarding process, and also the partner certification process. So for using the NRDR Web Services to send data to us, there are 4 steps, high-level 4 steps. One is authentication. 2, once you're authenticated, you will have to retrieve tokens. So we use the tokens to identify who the vendor is, and also for the facility that's submitting data to us. Then you send the data along with the token to the near-dear NRDR Web Services. And once we receive the data, we process at in test environment, we process data in the 15 minutes interval. So you will have to use our method to retrieve the submission statuses and figure out whether the submission actually went through and it passed through all the validations. So here I touch on more on the authentication process. So authentication is done by our ACL Connect authentication services. We're using the OpenID Connect protocol. We also require the facility to log in once. So the reason is that we need to identify that the NRDR facility users are actually who they are. And then we also provide the client ID and client secrets for the facility. So the service will require you to use the client ID and client secret as to pass along when you coming into the authentication services to retrieve the security authorization code and the tokens. So once you connect it via the login, you will retrieve the authorization code. You use the authorization code to get the access and refresh token. Then you send the token along with the data to us, and we will validate to make sure the token does not expire. Now, the token lifetime is 6 months, so there's plenty of time. So once the token expires, the user will have to log back in and retrieve another set of tokens. So as long as you have submitting the data to us in more frequent way, monthly, weekly, even we have vendors submitting data on a daily basis. So then your tokens should not expire. But once they expire, you will have to get your customer to log in again and repeat the process. For data submission, the API is using the JSON format. So your data will be, you will have to generate your data in the JSON format. When you submit the data to us, make sure that you're sending us the data at the facility level, meaning that every transaction you send to us, the exam has to be tied to the facility that where the exam took place. Once you submit the data, you will use our method to retrieve the validation statuses. Here in production, we run the validation daily, so you would use a method the day after to retrieve the status to find out whether a transaction was submitted successfully. Now, the onboarding process, to send us an email to nrdrsupport@acl.org, or you can actually go to our website, nrdrsupport.acl.org, which will, is a ticketing system. So you use that to submit a ticket and someone will get in touch with you. All the technical specification can be downloaded in this link. There you will find APIs for each of the registry that's providing the web services. So you will see GRID, LCSR, and MIPS there. Now, to come into our test environment, we'll need your IP addresses because our test environment is not open to public. So we'll whitelist your IP, and then we will set up credentials for you. So we will have to set up the client ID, client secret, and also we're going to set up a test facility and some test NRDR accounts for you to conduct the testing. Also, we would not like to receive real patient records, so please do not mask out your patient information. Just send us like dummy patient information to our test environment. Now, the certification process. So you have to demonstrate that you have successfully posted data to our test environment, and you also need to demonstrate that you have successfully retrieved the validation statuses. So actually there are two methods, a post and a get method. You do the post to submit the data. You use a get method to retrieve the statuses. And here is one example of the validation statuses. So the error message contains a warning. Some message actually contains an invalid message, in which case the exam record will not be processed and will not load it into our database. Warning message acceptable, but then your end user will have to go back to either to your system to correct the error, or they can come to our portal, pull up the case that we generated, and manually put the correct answer there. So that's how you can correct the answer and make the data through our validation process. Now, when you're ready to go live, you also need to contact us so that we can set up a credential for you in production. Now, the credential we provide in production is going to be different from what you use for test. So we recommend when you build your application software, consider making those credentials as configurable so that when you deliver to your clients, they will not need to use a test credentials. So also your facilities, your customers, when they're ready to go live, we also want to make sure that whichever registry they are submitting data to us, we'll make sure that they have the registration process completed, meaning they have to sign all the required business agreements. And also the physician records need to be entered into NRDR along with the physician group team. Okay, now I'm going to turn over to Uku. She will talk about the TRIAD submission.
Thank you, King. So some of you may already know about TRIAD, but just following up to what King is talking about, in addition to web services-based APIs, we do have ability to submit data into registries using TRIAD. TRIAD is our application that's developed by ACR, and we have different components, and it's being used by a variety of ACR business groups, including accreditation, clinical research side, and education. So just this slide gives more information about the current install base as far as what we have and as far as supporting the registries using the TRIAD. So for those index registries, we have over 1,500 sites actively submitting, and then we have over 1.4 million CT exams coming per month. And we have also some X-ray and fluoro exams coming through also in addition to CTs. And interventional radiology registry is one of the newer registries that we have. And currently we have 60 or so sites showed interest, and 20 of them have already signed PAs. So this is a diagram that gives an overview of how we use the site server for the those index registry. And on the left-hand side, you'll see different ways of getting the data into TRIAD site server. One of them is that's one that has the arrow right now. Those are the scanners. So the site can push the data direct from scanners into the site server, and we do prefer our DSRs being pushed and also the localizers, so that we have the site-based those calculations available. And likewise, they can submit the data from their packs, which is the second option. And likewise, from there also we receive our DSRs primarily, and especially for the newer scanners. And for the additional ones as the DIR partners, we do work currently on with some of you as far as getting data from your those monitoring applications into our site server to be able to upload them into the registries, into the DIR specifically for this example. So likewise for the DIR partners also, we are getting the DICOMs, and we are getting those DICOM images as RDSRs and localizers. And more though, we do prefer having the SSD given to us within the RDSR, so that way calculations are handled better. And this slide gives the overview of what I just talked about, how the data comes into TRIAD site server. So next is we have within the site server, before we get the images to the registries, we do have processing done locally at the site level. We do anonymization. We do remove the DICOM headers that pertain to PHI, and we do have some of our algorithms, which we would be happy to share if interested, as far as like what we anonymize, what we keep, what we remove from the DICOM headers. And we do, of course, emphasize that please do not pre-anonymize the scanner and institution information, since they are being used for reporting purposes and the mapping of the master child facilities. So the next processing that we have is the OCR processing. In addition to the RDSRs that I mentioned earlier, we do receive the dose sheets, dose screens for some of the older scanners that may not support the RDSRs directly, and we do have algorithms within the OCR processing tools for Toshiba, Siemens, GE, and Philips scanners that we run through this tool that we have, and then we can convert those sheets into RDSRs before we upload them into the registries. So the last main processing that we do on the site server, especially for DIR purposes, is the master child mapping, master child site mapping, because we do have facilities that have several large facilities that have multiple child facilities. So we have an ability to have those mapped during the installations and configurations. So as far as the overall process, what happens is the sites will need to register in NRDR and sign their PA's participation agreements. And then from that point on, NRDR team provides the link for the installation of TRIAD to the sites. Sites install the site server on their own, and they contact our help desk in case of any questions or any issues for that matter. We do provide support services 5 days a week and 8 hours a day during regular ACR business hours. So the next registry that I'm going to talk about that as one of the examples of the site server capabilities is the IR registry, Interventional Radiology Registry. So for this registry, we are receiving the reports, not the DICOM images. So these reports are sent to us using HR7 messages. And again, for this registry also, we definitely are very much tied into NRDR, and we use NRDR credentials. And we are looking into HR7 ORU messages where these reports are provided. And SIR, we're working with Society of Interventional Radiology, and they do have the templates for us, for the institutions also to configure their reporting systems based on these templates. Once these reporting systems are configured with these SIR templates, and we would need to have the site send us HR7 messages. So we do have our site server pretty much in the listening mode. So we do have the HR7 feature that pretty much listens in any HR7 messages coming in. We do provide the anonymization and validation features. We are looking into the patient-specific tags to anonymize. We also look at the structured templates to both identify the data and also the validate to make sure the data is meeting the needs for the IR registry. And of course, as we are doing this, we are anonymizing the data, and we are also mapping the patient IDs into random numbers so that we don't receive any of the patient IDs coming from this site. And this is pretty much the overall architecture diagram as far as how the site server works with our backend applications and NRDR for reporting purposes. As you would see on the left-hand side at the top, HR7 clients, those could be the reporting applications or could be the interface engines, depending on how the institutions are set up. And that HR7 message would come to the site server, and then you see that there's an HR7 SDK as part of the site server. And then that would listen in and validate the message first, and then anonymize, and then convert it into JSON format to get that delivered to us in the backend. This is pretty much, as you heard earlier, King goes through the APIs. And we do actually support those APIs within the site server itself too, so that we do send those data elements direct to our systems in the backend, so that reports can be generated and created back on the NRDR platform for everybody to access. So, and the site setup and support process, it's pretty similar to what we talked about for the DIR site. For the IR registry, for the site server, for the time being, we are having our support team schedule phone calls to install the site server for the IR part and just walk through the process with the users. And then after that, of course, we are providing regular support through our TRIAD support line also. Likewise, in addition to, actually, King touched on that briefly also, in addition to providing services for the IR registry through TRIAD site server, we do have the Connect-based web service-based APIs, pretty much follow the same standards that King has talked about earlier. So we do have that ability also if you plan to work through your applications, vendor applications, and send that data to us, and we do provide APIs also.
All right.
Back to Zach.
Thanks a lot, Olku, and thank you, King. Thank you, Lou. So just a few takeaway points in summary. But first, let me just remind everybody, we've got some time for Q&A, so feel free to enter some questions if you have any. Or raise your hand and we can unmute you. So takeaway points. First of all, registry reporting will help your client improve quality and increase their bottom line. And it'll also help make their transition to MIPS easier. You can coordinate with your client to retrieve appropriate templates and data submission requirements. And you can always reach out to ACR registry staff to test your data submission capabilities. And finally, just remember to submit data early and often. A few dates that are relevant that are coming up. We've got our next webinar on August 17th. That's going to be execution tips for successful QCDR reporting. and the slides we send out will have a registration link for that. And then in September, on September 21st, we're going to have Avoid Costly Errors, Submit MIPS and Non-MIPS Data Accurately. And finally, our annual conference on quality and safety is coming up this October. That's October 13th and 14th in Boston. And we still have space for people to become exhibitors. So if any of the vendors on this call are interested, just click through that link and we can give you some more information about how to become an exhibitor. And finally, here's some contact information if you need to reach out to us for any reason. And if anybody has questions, we will read those now. So let's give just a few moments for people to type questions if they have any. All right, we've got one here from Christina, and she's asking, I am currently reporting 8 MIPS measures via claims. My doctors want me to do registry as well for the same measures. My vendor is telling me I cannot report the same measures via claim and via registry. Can you clarify? Anybody want to take that one? I might be able to answer. So it's really just not necessary to do both. I would recommend doing one or the other. But if you need some further clarification on that, just send an email to us, the email on your screen, nrdrsupport@acr.org, and we'll get back to you. We might need just a little more information from you. Any other questions? And also feel free to do the hand raise and we can unmute you. All right, we just got one from Kimberly. She's asking, several of our radiology clients want to link with other practices that they're affiliated with. We want some clarification on the best way to do this.
We have a way to do that with the registries. There's what we refer to as a master-child relationship in the registries. So if your clients have more than one physical location, those would be considered child facilities. And then we use a master facility, which is actually a dummy facility, to join the data from those individual facilities. So it's actually a pretty common setup within the National Radiology Data Registry.
Okay, thanks, Lou. Any other questions?
I want to read out one question that I got.
Sure.
Does each registry have its own unique template for the flat file upload? And I answered, yes, it will vary according to the specific registry.
Okay, we got another one in here. Can you please talk about the process for previewing MIPS measures prior to selecting and submitting to CMS?
Yeah, so the MIPS portal allows you, so the data that you submit to us is not going to be sent to CMS automatically. So there's a process towards the end of the cycle where your customer or the facility will have to go in and pick and choose the measures that they feel comfortable to sending to CMS. So you log into the MIPS portal and choose the measure that you feel comfortable before we send it to CMS. So there's a way to do that in the portal.
Okay, don't have anything else yet. So while we're waiting on maybe another question or two, I just want to reiterate, you can send any questions you have to nrdrsupport@acr.org. What that'll do is open up a support ticket, and we'll follow up with you. It'll go to the most appropriate person who can help you with your question. And so far, it's been a really good way to help people with their questions. You can also call us 800-227-5463, extension 3535, or you can visit our QCDR resources at acr.org/QCDR. And just a reminder, we'll be emailing everybody out a recording of this presentation and a copy of the slides. That should be coming later today, so just be looking out for that. And looks like we don't have any other questions for now, so I guess we can go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks a lot to everybody who joined us, and we hope you join us for the next one. Have a great day.